Welcome to Remade in California. I'm career coach Pat Pattison. This is a show about reinvention, inspiration, and transformation. Tools you can use if you're launching a new career or business or simply reinventing yourself. Our expert guests help us explore new ideas, educational programs, and job resources available to you right here in California. During this show, we'll be discussing beginning again and how you can pivot your own life and career. During this show, we'll speak with Alton Pete, who after 26 years with the Army is beginning his life as a civilian. He'll give us tips on how we can pivot our own lives. Also joining us today is Executive Coach Don Kohler. We will be discussing cultural fit and how businesses change. I have here with me now a producer extraordinaire, Lou Denig. Lou is a longtime Hollywood studio executive who has helped launch many successful court shows like Judge Judy, Judge Joe Brown, and Divorce Court. Lou, welcome to the show.
Pat, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I got to know something. Television industry, incredibly volatile, incredibly different. How do you stay current?
You just have to look after pop culture. It's
Okay.
all about just trying to watch as much TV as you can, read magazines, read books, read blogs. I read a lot of blogs.
Right.
You just have to stay current.
Yeah.
It's a very simple business. It's like the schmata business. If they're buying red, you make more red.
And how do you do that when you don't necessarily like the thing you have to stay current on? I mean,
You don't have to like it, but
it's more of an academic study almost.
It can be more of an academic study, and there are some parts of it that for me really are an academic study, but for most of it, it's stuff that I like. It's all storytelling,
Right.
and I love stories. I've been telling stories my whole life, and that's what people are watching now.
But most of your stories take place in court.
Oh.
So how does a show like Judge Judy get started?
Well, Judy got started because Judy was a family court judge in New York, and she was funny, and she knew it. And when she started out, she was famous to her husband and Ed Koch, the guy who put her in the job.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
How am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. She was doing great. Exactly. Ed Koch was great.
Yeah.
So Judy thought that she could be a personality too,
Okay.
and really went about trying to make that happen. She wrote a book called "Don't Pee on My Leg and Tell Me It's Raining." She got an agent and a couple of producers, brought her out to Hollywood. She had a ton of meetings, and a guy, Larry Little, saw her, liked her, got her.
So it's all around the personality.
Yeah, and put her on television.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. The personality that you see on the Judge Judy show today is the same person that I met 20 years ago when they were just launching the show.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because I know that you can have a personality and then you design a format for a show, and sometimes that personality and the show format don't work. Give us an example of how that happens.
Celebrities have an authentic personality. And that authentic personality is the personality that you expect to see when you see them on TV.
Right.
I think Nancy Grace is a great example of a square peg that we tried to put into a round hole. Now, Nancy Grace's authentic personality, what you expect from her is that she is a bulldog prosecutor who reads her stuff, makes up her mind, and then attacks the people who she thinks are wrongdoers. We put her in a show that was kind of like a court show, where she was supposed to do her homework and try to be fair.
Okay.
And to her credit, she gave it her best shot. But that wasn't Nancy Grace. The folks at home watched the show and said, who is this woman and where's my Nancy Grace?
And there's just no way for that person to necessarily pretend that she's authentic in that way.
She could pretend that, but why?
Pretend authentic, that's an oxymoron.
Yeah, that's exactly true. Now you can create authenticity,
Yeah.
and you can foster authenticity, and the authenticity that Nancy Grace has on her shows might not be her whole personality,
Right.
but it's the personality that she has honed and chooses to show to the viewers. And I think authentic personalities are something that a lot of people can apply to their working lives.
So how do you recommend somebody kind of get in touch with that in terms of their authentic personality?
I think what you do is you talk to the people who are your friends and colleagues, and you try to pay attention to the personality that you project to those people, and you pay attention to that. Okay. And then you try to do more. I mean, it's kind of like producing. I try to find the material that makes you look good,
right.
And whatever that material is, we bring more of that material, and the material that makes you look bad, we bring less of that material.
Okay. Yeah.
So you just in the course of your daily life, listen to listen to what people respond to, and do that more.
That's a lot like with some of my career coaching clients. Will tell them, make a list of where you've succeeded in the past and where you haven't, and notice if there's a thread with the successes.
Exactly.
So when you are pulling together, and I'm sure you've done this yourself, maybe a skill set that you want to pivot, since the show's about new beginnings and pivoting. How does that translate in terms of something new? Like, how did you take your own skill set into new adventures?
I started in this business, as you well know, as a suit, as a guy who was hired by the studio to help shows stay on track. Okay. And then I pivoted into a producer when my boss got fired, and his exit deal was to go be executive producer on the Judge Joe Brown show, and he wanted some help, and I wanted a raise. So I stuck with the raise, and
that's your authentic self.
Exactly.
Right.
I wanted the money. I wanted the money, and Frank, he offered to give me the money, and so I went over to Joe to stay for 6 months to help him out, and 13 seasons later, I was still there. Yeah.
So give us an example of where there's been like a conflict with one of these authentic personalities in the studio, where the studio said, I mean, you mentioned Nancy Grace.
Nancy Grace is a good example. Hollywood people do it all the time. You buy a personality like Dr. Laura. We did a show with Dr. Laura. Right. And Dr. Laura, Dr. Laura's on the radio, and she calls people out on their stuff. And they bring in their problems, and she tells it like it is. Except when we put her on television, she wouldn't do that. She wanted to be likable.
Okay.
And that's fine, but that's not
on the radio.
That's not her show. That's not her shtick. That wasn't the authentic personality.
She didn't have people looking at her. Maybe it was a difference or something.
I think that was true, because when we put her at a desk, we would put somebody behind her, across from her. She wouldn't talk to them. We'd put them in a monitor. She wouldn't talk to them. Whoa. We'd put them in a monitor in silhouette, and then she would kind of yell at them. Wow. I know. She was tough.
Wow.
She took one authentic personality and tried to make it into another one, and the audience just didn't buy it as authentic.
So in terms of, you have a great saying, when we talked earlier, declare victory and move on.
Exactly.
I love that saying. Tease that out for me a little bit.
Just saying that if you're in a business, as I've been, if you're in a producing business and you're in a rut and you can't get arrested doing that, declare victory in that business and move on to the next one.
Whether it's been a victory or not.
Exactly. And generally it has, or you wouldn't have been successful enough to move on.
Well, and every experience is a victory in the sense that you have learned something.
Absolutely.
So when you said that to me, that's how I took it.
That's good.
I took it. So now, how have you remade yourself lately? How have you pivoted?
The producing business isn't what it used to be. Okay. There's a lot less money to produce shows. People are producing far fewer episodes of shows. When we did Judge Joe Brown, we produced 260 episodes a year. I just did a show for Comedy Central. We produced 20 episodes.
Wow.
So that business, while it's fun, and I really love the process.
And you're good at it.
Thank you very much. It doesn't keep me as busy as it used to be.
Right.
So now I'm looking for new things to do.
And you have a project that you're working on?
I do. I'm trying to become a corporate speaker.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think it should be really fun. Yeah. We've been working with some very smart producers who kind of know that business, and trying to pivot into that.
I can see you doing that. Totally.
Thank you very much.
And you also are working on a homeless project.
I am. I've been working with, just as a sidelight, a friend of mine has a family member who's schizophrenic and is having a really hard time figuring out how to manage that, and that got me interested in the mental health aspect of homeless people. So I've been working in. I have a place in Alexandria, Virginia, outside of Washington D.C. I've been working with a couple of really interesting charities that seem to be very successful in that area, and I'm trying to help them tell their story, bring their story bigger, maybe raise some money, maybe replicate safe havens in other cities.
That's great.
And try to help people.
Well, good for you. Appreciate you sharing how you've remade yourself.
Thank you
very much. Next, we'll be right back with Alton Pete to discuss how he is pivoting into a new life as a civilian. Stay tuned.